Well, a very warm welcome, fellows and guests, to the 135th Rhind Lectures. It's good to see so many of you able to join us this evening. I'm McSween, a Vice President of the Society. Tonight I'm standing in for Alan Saville, the President, who's unfortunately ill and unable to be with us this weekend. And I'm sure you'll join with me in wishing him the best for a speedy recovery. We would especially like to thank and welcome Rubicon Heritage Services for sponsoring the 2014 Rhind Lectures. The role of sponsors in this event is increasingly important. We are therefore particularly pleased that their sponsorship has been matched by a new arts sponsorship grant, funded by the Scottish Government and delivered by Arts and Business Scotland. The grants aim to build private sector sponsorship of the arts and culture by providing match funding for new arts sponsors, doubling their sponsorship benefits. This has allowed us to professionally film the Rhinds for the first time, and our thanks to Mallard Productions for working with us over the weekend. We would also like to thank our supporters, the Consul General of Ireland, Pat Byrne, and the Department of Foreign Affairs and Trade's Cultural Grant Scheme for assistance towards travel and accommodation for Professor Waddell. And finally, the Royal Society of Edinburgh for so generously hosting this highlight of the Society calendar. Your support is greatly valued by the Society. Thank you. So importantly, please remember once again that this is being filmed and ensure your mobile phone is switched off. As is customary, there'll be no formal questions to the lecturer until after the final lecture on Sunday, where there will be the opportunity for a general question and answer session. And following this evening's lecture, there will be a reception upstairs to which everyone in the audience this evening is cordially invited. Better to get it over with early. It is the custom of the Rhind Lectures to begin with a brief personal memoir about Alexander Henry Rhind of Sibster. He was born in 1833, son of Josiah Rhind, a banker in Wick. He was educated at Pulteney Town Academy and at Edinburgh University, where he read natural history and natural philosophy. He also attended lectures by Cosmo Innes on Scottish history and antiquities because of his strong personal interest in these subjects. He interested himself in the archaeology of his own district and in 1851 opened chambered tombs, including those at Yarrows. In 1853, he explored a broch at Kettleburn. The report of this was published in the Archaeological Journal and in the Proceedings of Our Own Society, Volume 1. The finds were also presented to the Society, of which he'd been elected Fellow in 1852, becoming an honorary member in 1857, aged only 24. His archaeological interests were, however, far-reaching, and in 1851 he made a long tour in Europe, visiting monuments in the Netherlands, Denmark, Germany, Switzerland, Austria, and Italy. And he was subsequently called upon to advise the Society on the organisation of the exhibits in its museum. He had intended to proceed to the Scottish Bar, but in 1853 his health forced him to winter in the south of England, making his home near Bristol. From then on, he was only able to visit Sibster in summer. Every winter, however, he went abroad to Egypt, and in later years to Spain, Algiers, France, Italy, and Madeira. Rhind was a prolific donor of both Scottish and foreign antiquities to the National Museum here in Edinburgh, including many important items he discovered in Egypt. Also in Egypt, he acquired what is now known as the Rhind Mathematical Papyrus, which was sold after his death to the British Museum. The Rhind Papyrus featured in Neil MacGregor's History of the World in 100 Objects. He was an active writer of papers, memoranda, and letters, concerning himself, for instance, in the matter of treasure trove and the recording of ancient monuments on Ordnance Survey maps. His magnum opus, the book on his work at Thebes in Egypt, was published in 1862, shortly before his death, with the title Thebes, its tombs and their tenants, ancient and present, including a record of excavations in the necropolis. He died at Zurich in 1863 and was buried at Wick. His services to archaeology had been untiring during his life, and at his death he bequeathed to the Society his library, a sum of £400 for excavation in northern Scotland, the copyright of his book on Thebes, and the residue of his estate of Sibster, to endow the lectures that still perpetuate his name. And so, since their inception in 1876, the lectures have enabled speakers to explore, and I quote, some branch of archaeology, ethnology, ethnography, or allied topic in order to assist in the general advancement of knowledge. John Waddell is a graduate of the National University of Ireland, Galway, and Emeritus Professor of Archaeology there. He worked in the National Museum of Ireland, Dublin, for several years, before returning to Galway in 1970, where he was established Professor of Archaeology from 1998 to 2009. He is a member of the Royal Irish Academy. His research interests lie mainly in the archaeology of prehistoric Ireland and in the prehistoric relationships between this island and Britain and continental Europe. His publications include studies of Irish early Bronze Age pottery and burials, and a major synthesis of the archaeology of prehistoric Ireland. This book, The Prehistoric Archaeology of Ireland, is now in its third edition. He has also written a history of archaeology titled Foundation Myths, published in 2005. Fieldwork has included work on the Aran Islands and on the royal site of Rathcrogan, County Roscommon, a complex of archaeological monuments that figures prominently in early Irish literature. His recent research has focused on Rathcrogan, and this has provided the inspiration for these Rhind Lectures. Please welcome Emeritus Professor John Waddell to begin the 135th series of Rhind Lectures on archaeology and Celtic myth and exploration.